Neural activation rewires the brain. One reality. The quantum level. Thought is a physics process.
Welcome to today's Explainer. We're about to take a completely fascinating journey into exploring exactly how our minds shape the reality we live in. You know, we constantly hear phrases like thoughts are material, but where exactly does that beautiful metaphor end and real biology begin? Well, today we're going to break this question down to its absolute finest details, looking at popular practices, clinical psychology, and neurophysiology.
So, let's just jump right in. Can we actually think our way to reality? It's an incredibly appealing concept, right? The idea that we can manifest, or literally attract, our deepest desires just by using the power of our thoughts. I mean, you've probably seen countless articles, TikToks, and courses promising that the right mental attitude can somehow magically deliver your dream job, perfect relationships, or total financial independence.
Section 1. Rules for fulfilling desires.
So, if you look at popular culture, places like Yoga Journal, for example, they lay out this highly structured, somewhat esoteric approach to manifestation. It generally breaks down into these 10 really attractive steps. The whole essence essentially boils down to creating the most detailed, emotionally charged image of your desire right in the present tense. You write it down, you strip out any negative phrasing, and then, and this is the big one, you let it go, trusting the process entirely to the universe. It's meant to teach positive visualization and help reduce anxiety from, excessive control. Sounds pretty great on the surface, doesn't it?
Which brings us to Section 2, the magical thinking trap.
Now flip the coin, and when we shift from popular esotericism over to clinical psychology, we get a completely different take on how believing in the omnipotence of our thoughts actually affects our mental state. The scientific community has a specific name for this phenomenon. They call it magical thinking. Basically, it's the belief that simply by thinking about something in a very specific way, you can physically alter the matter around you, or, say, force another person to pick up the phone and call you.
Section 3. The dangers of blind faith. Sure, magical thinking might give you a quick hit of hope, but specialists over at platforms like SciNavigator warn about some very real mental health risks if you rely on it exclusively. I mean, think about it. If you genuinely believe you control the entire universe with your thoughts, what happens when tragedy inevitably strikes? A colossal sense of guilt. A person might start thinking, man, I guess I wasn't thinking positively enough. Or even worse, I brought this illness on myself. This creates an illusion of control that leads straight into toxic positivity, where you're just suppressing totally natural fears or anger. And for people who are already prone to anxiety, this can become an absolute nightmare, spiraling into obsessive fears that any random dark thought will immediately come to life and harm the people they love.
And here is the really crucial point. Trying to forcefully make yourself only think positive thoughts actually backfires on a biological level. Try it right now. For the next 5 seconds, under absolutely no circumstances are you allowed to think about a pink elephant. Did it work? Yeah, probably not. By punishing yourself for having wrong thoughts, you literally just amplify their significance in your brain. It creates this vicious, exhausting cycle of stress.
Moving on to Section 4, the biology of our thoughts.
To break out of that stress cycle, we've got to shift our focus to the hard science. Psychologist Albert Safin highlights a super grounding point here. Thoughts are not these magical clouds floating in the ether above your head. They are tangible absolutely, but only inside your body. They are literally specific electrical impulses firing between neurons and chemical reactions that are altering your hormonal balance right here, right now.
Let's look at how this cascade actually happens in reality. Step 1. Your thought sparks a chemical reaction. That reaction then shapes your physical state. So, for instance, a rush of cortisol makes your muscles tense up. From that tense state, you make a specific, often unconscious choice, which then dictates your actual physical action. And that is exactly how a thought becomes material. It happens through your hands, your words, and your actions, not by mysteriously altering space from 50 miles away.
So you might be wondering, why does it feel like we attract events sometimes? Well, meet your brain's reticular activating system, or the RAS. Every single second, we are bombarded with terabytes of information, and the RAS acts as your brain's bouncer. It's a filter. If you're totally convinced the world is full of threats, your filter is going to actively snatch only aggression and danger out of reality, completely erasing the positive opportunities. So you start behaving defensively, which of course provokes conflicts. And boom, just like that, the prophecy fulfills itself.
To keep from becoming a hostage to your own worst-case scenarios, Safin uses this beautiful metaphor. He says, you are the sky, thoughts are the clouds. You really don't have to identify with every single thunderstorm that rolls through your mind.
Taking a step back and acting as an outside observer instantly strips those negative thoughts of their emotional power over you.
Section 5. From thoughts to actions.
So, grounding all this in biology, how do we actually use the power of our minds to change reality without falling back into that toxic positivity trap? It really comes down to the difference between passive and psychological manifestation. The passive approach basically burns through your motivational fuel right at the starting line. Your brain gets a massive dopamine hit just from visualizing the success, and it decides, hey, we already achieved the goal, so you do nothing. Psychological manifestation works completely differently. You tune your focus toward a goal so that your brain, acting like a radar, starts actually noticing the right people and the right opportunities in your environment. You are literally changing your biological readiness to take action.
And the absolute key here is staying realistic. Safin shares this hilarious, completely relatable story. He was eating a Snickers bar and his front tooth just broke right off and stayed stuck in the chocolate. He didn't engage in toxic self-deception, standing in front of a mirror screaming affirmations about having the strongest teeth in the world. And he didn't blame himself for attracting the broken tooth with bad vibes. He just acknowledged the fact, felt a totally normal sense of annoyance, booked a dentist appointment, and went right back to enjoying his evening. Realistic thinking is always going to beat empty affirmations.
This kind of realistic thinking builds a super practical framework for handling anxiety. If you are overwhelmed by some fear of the future, don't suppress it. Instead, write down the absolute worst-case scenario. Just get it on paper. Then outline the exact steps you will take if that terrible thing actually happens. Finally, identify one small, actionable thing you can do right now to reduce the probability of it happening. This takes that anxiety, pulls it right out of the emotional center of your brain, and drops it squarely into the rational part. Anxiety completely loses its grip when you meet it with a concrete plan.
Because at the end of the day, thoughts don't magically move mountains all on their own. But they do control the muscles that move those mountains. You can't control all the random chaos out there in the world, but you are absolutely the architect of how you respond to it. So considering all of that, I'll leave you with this. What filter for perceiving reality will you choose to use right now? What will you choose to focus your reticular activating system on today? Really think about that. Thanks for joining us for this explainer, and we'll see you next time.